Welcome to Tntspices. Today we have a delicious winter hearty meal. We have something that is called Hunter's Stew. Be very, very quiet. It's also known as Bigos. This is a traditional Polish dish. We're going to give it, as always, a TNT twist. Let's begin our hunter stew. Now we have several different meats that we're going to use in our hunter stew. I have pork shoulder.
Ooh yeah, pork shoulder, baby!
I have some venison shoulder that we're going to get to. I also have some kielbasa that we're going to use. Now we're using very tough cuts of meats. I realize that pork shoulder can be very tough, venison shoulder can be very tough, but we're going to place all these meats into a slow cooker, and these are going to cook for hours and hours, and they're going to tenderize and become very soft and delicious. I just simply cut it up off the bone myself and cubed it up into pieces. I have roughly about 4 pounds of cubed up pork shoulder here. Now I'm going to simply take our barbecue pork seasoning, and I'm going to season these cubes up real well with our seasoning. Now our seasoning is low in salt, so you can be very generous. I would say that's probably about 1/3 cup. Our next meat is our venison shoulder. I just cut it off the bone and cut it up into cubes, as you can see. Now we're going to season this with our blueberry black garlic espresso rub.
Berries, berries, berries.
This is going to go very well, and again, this is also very low in sodium, so you can be very generous with this rub. Now I don't have as much venison shoulder here. I have roughly 2.5 pounds of venison shoulder, so I'm going to add about a good 3 to 4 tablespoons of our rub into this. And we're going to stir this in real well, or mix this in real well. Our next meat that we're going to start preparing is our kielbasa. What I have here in this is a tablespoon of bacon fat. Now, if you don't have bacon fat, you can simply use butter, olive oil, any type of grease. Now that our bacon grease has melted, we are next going to add in our kielbasa. Now what I've done is I've cubed our kielbasa into chunks. We're going to simply throw that into our frying pan, and we're going to brown this up. We've been cooking our kielbasa about 10 minutes now. We're starting to get some nice good caramelization. We're going to take this out of the pot and set this to the side. With our kielbasa removed, we are now going to take the pork shoulder that we seasoned. We're going to put this into our pan, and we're going to brown this up. Now we're going to have to do this in batches. We have finished browning up all of our pork. We're going to do the exact same thing with our venison shoulder now. Now that we have finished browning our venison and our pork, we next are going to deglaze our pan. I have 1 cup of red wine. I'm going to add the red wine in here. We are going to deglaze this pan and reduce this wine down. With our wine simmered down a little and our pan deglazed, we are going to take this wine and we're going to put this and reserve this to the side. Let's start building this Bigos. To begin, I have 2 bags of sauerkraut.
Yes, I'd like some sauerkraut.
Now, this is a sauerkraut. It's roasted garlic, salt, and pepper, and that is strictly all that's in it. I have 2 1-pound bags. Now, some people will take this sauerkraut and they will drain it, and some will even rinse it after they drain it. That is an option. That's up to you. For us, we are going to strictly pour everything straight into the bottom of this slow cooker. After adding our sauerkraut, I am next going to take our pork that we browned up. Next, I have some rosemary. I have about 4 sprigs of rosemary. I have 4 bay leaves that I'm going to add. I have 2 teaspoons of basil and 2 teaspoons of cumin. We are next going to take some mushrooms. I have some sliced up baby portobello mushrooms. Add that. I also have some wild mushrooms that were dried. I had about 1/2 cup of wild mushrooms. I added 1/2 cup of hot water, and we've allowed these to dehydrate. I'm going to place the water and the mushrooms into this. In here, I have 1/2 cup of raisins. Now, it's not just raisins in here. I also took a teaspoon of liquid smoke, and I mixed the liquid smoke in with our raisins, and I let this sit a good hour, and we're going to add that in. Now I'm going to take our kielbasa that we fried up. I'm going to take our venison. I have 2 tablespoons of our black and blue espresso hot sauce. We're going to add that in. I'm also going to take the red wine that we had in our pan. I'm going to add that. Now here I have 1 small cabbage that I sliced up thinly. I'm going to add that on. Squish this down. We are going to put our lid on this. We are going to set our slow cooker on low, and we're going to let this cook 6 hours on low before we add any additional ingredients. Let's take this lid off. Give this a bit of a mix. We're now going to add our 2 final ingredients. I have 1/2 cup of beer. I have 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. After adding those ingredients, we'll stir them in. We're going to put the lid back on. We're going to allow this to continue cooking another 2 hours. And we'll come back and make sure everything is fall apart tender. 2 hours has passed by. This is now finished cooking. Last thing that we're going to add is some SPG.
Delicious, so delicious.
Now this is based on your own preference as to how much or how little you like. It also is based upon the sauerkraut you use. Some sauerkrauts are going to be more salty than others, especially with that brine. I'm putting in a tablespoon of our SPG. Now, as I said, just adjust it to how you would like it. We'll give it a mix up. And after I get this stirred in, we'll get ready to plate this up. Our Bigos, aka Hunter Stew, is finished. As you can see, this is a very delicious meal. It is packed full of flavors. Now, one recommendation, it also depends on the sauerkraut, is you may want to add a little bit of vinegar, white vinegar to it. It all depends on your personal preference. We thank everybody for joining us here at Tntspices. Please like, subscribe, follow, leave your comments or questions. And as always, we thank each and every one of you for joining us here every week. God bless.
Praise God!